Hello and welcome to MyFusion Helper. In this brief video, I'm going to show you how to use Trello. Now, Trello It is our newest and most powerful integration as a complete replacement for the entire opportunity and sales pipeline management system in Infusionsoft, which was really designed for sales pipelines. But with the use and inclusion of Trello, you now have the ability to create any type of workflow management system you desire with Infusionsoft with a very tight integration and even webhook notifications back and forth as the Trello cards progress through the workflow system. So this is really truly intended to be a complete drop-in replacement for opportunity management if you prefer to do that outside of Infusionsoft. Now, I'm going to show you a little bit about Trello itself first because I know some people aren't familiar with it. And after that, I'm going to dive into the helper and how to set it up and all the integration options with it, which is very simple, but also very, very powerful. And then lastly, we're going to dive into Infusionsoft and show you how easy it is to integrate it with Infusionsoft as well. All right, so let's go ahead and dive right in. All right, here we are at Trello, and I'm already logged in, but I want to show you a couple things. First of all, I'm using just the free version of Trello, and to be quite honest, that's all I have used. I've never found the need to upgrade because it's so powerful in the free version. So I want you to understand that this system and this integration is designed to work with the free version of Trello, meaning that you have no outside costs to involve a large team in project management with Infusionsoft. And you don't even need to add different Infusionsoft user access because they won't need access to Infusionsoft either unless they're doing Infusionsoft specific tasks or management. So that's kind of the first thing I wanted to show you. Now, with Trello, you have the ability to create multiple boards. Now, you kind of have to learn the lingo a little bit. A Trello board is the equivalent of like a project when it comes to a workflow management system. So you can have different projects or different workflows if you want to think of it that way. So if, for example, you're an attorney that has different types of workflows for different types of clients, then you could create different boards for each of those and have different workflow stages set up within each of those workflows or projects, okay? But again, Trello is going to call those boards. Now, I've set up a demo board here to show you an example, so let's go in and take a look at that. Now, with Trello, the way these boards work is they're just vertical bars that are added in here, and you can scroll across them. So, oops, I jumped out of there. So if I had a bunch more blocked, let's say this is needs approval, and I want to save that board. Notice how it just jumps to the next one. You can add them, and then you can drag them and drop them. So I could say maybe this goes after blocked, but before done. So this would be just a simple task management workflow. And so I have new tasks that come in and go into my to-do list. And then I have tasks that I'm working on that go in the doing list. And then I have things that are blocked. So perhaps I'm waiting for a response from someone before I can move forward. And then we just created a list called needs approval, and that would be for something that an approval needs to happen before it can proceed. And then I have my list for done. And so if I wanted to say that this create video for Trello It Helper is done, I could just drag it and drop it over here into the done list. Okay. Now, again, to talk the lingo, I would consider these workflow stages, right? But in Trello speak, this is called a list. Okay, so we have boards and then lists. And you can configure Trello with any number of boards and lists that you want. Now, these items here are called cards. Now, a Trello card is something that you could think of it as a help desk ticket. You could think of it as a task, an item, whatever you want to think of it that way. But this is what we're going to be creating inside of Infusionsoft is creating this Trello card. And there's lots of different options that you can add to these cards to make them very, very powerful. In fact, you can complete an entire templated project inside of just one card. And the way you can do that is by adding checklists. Now, you could add a checklist that would be, set up system. Okay, and for that you could then add, so here it created the checklist, and then you could add multiple checklists, like let's say set up and configure Wistia, set permissions on video, render video in HD, store backup of video in Dropbox. Okay, you get the idea. You can set up these little tasks that have to be completed, and it'll show you completion percentage as you go. Now, the nice part of this is you can also set up multiple checklists with multiple tasks. And all of this is going to be available inside of Infusionsoft through MyFusion Helper. In our interface, we allow you to do all of this. Okay, so these are really, really powerful ways of setting up an entire project and checklist for that project inside of a single Trello card. Now, also what you can do is you can assign members directly. So notice that under the members, it's got my little picture here. Now, my particular account, others don't have access, so I don't have another way to show you, but we can easily assign multiple members from your team directly to that card. So another beautiful way of delegating your tasks. Now, lastly, one of the things that you can do is set up these labels. Now, these labels can be used in a lot of different ways. You can use them however you want. Labels start out like this. They're just a color, and you can assign a name to them and what they represent and use them how you see fit. So in this particular example, I have different colors for Tuesday tips, and a color for blog, and a color for new helpers, and a bright red for something that's urgent. But there's lots of different options. When I use this in my own personal management across the 3 companies that I run, as well as some of my private clients, that's a lot going on. And for me to keep track of all that, I have one Trello board. And I have my lists going across like you see in this one above. And then what I use these different filters for is the different companies and clients. And so that I can click on one and see everything related to the MyFusion company, or I can create another and see everything related to my private consulting company, and just filter them quickly and easily, which brings me to my next point. Once one of these cards is set up, we can go here and filter. So I can click this show filter menu, and I can just click on filter cards. And if I only want to look on cards that are in the Tuesday tips label, you'll see that all the other cards go away and I have just these showing up. So what this allows you to do is you can have dozens or even hundreds of items in these different lists, but you can very intelligently use filters to just look at the subset that you want to see related to the specific project you're working on, or client, or company, however you want to define those labels. Okay, so again, this is just a quick overview of Trello. It's not meant to be a full training on Trello. I'll do a separate webinar on that and post that in the site so that you have the ability to go through a more in-depth training. But I wanted to show you a little overview of Trello and the nomenclature of how it works and how things are named. So once again, we start with boards. You have Trello boards, which you can think of in terms of projects or companies or different workflows. And then once you drill into that Trello board, we have multiple lists that you can assign and create. And then within those lists, we have our actual Trello cards. The Trello cards themselves contain attachments, descriptions, be assigned to members, have labels and checklists, and even set due dates. Okay, so this is the quick overview of Trello. So now let's dive into MyFusion Helper and see how this all comes together and how we're able to now automate this process through a simple and easy HTTP post. All right, so here we are in MyFusion Helper, one of my test accounts. I've already logged in, and so I'm going to skip that part. We go in to create a new helper, okay? And the easiest way to do this is in the pick helper, just type the name. So we'll just type Trello, and there's our Trello helper, and I'm going to create a Trello demo and go ahead and configure that. Okay, now the first thing that it's going to do is ask me to give access to my account. Now, one of the things that you'll notice is that we do support multiple Trello accounts. So if you are a consultant that has access to multiple Trello accounts with multiple Trello companies or multiple clients that use Trello, then you have that ability to set up these automations across multiple platforms. So this is a very powerful feature. The easiest way is just to already be logged into Trello, and then we can just say give Trello or give MyFusion access, and we can say allow. Okay, now here there's a switch accounts button, so if you wanted to switch to another account, we could have done that. With that one button push configuration, boom, we're all set up. Now, as I said, it's easiest if you're already logged into Trello. If you weren't, you would go through a login process, etc. But I just log into Trello first, leave it open in another tab, and then do the setup. It's the easiest way to do it. Okay, so now you'll see that this account is listed here in my Trello helper integration. You'll also see that there's a button to add another Trello account. So here, if I wanted to add a second account, is where I would do that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and select the account, and you'll see as I do, it drills down and says, okay, well, what board do you want this helper to integrate with? And so I'm going to do to the Troy demo board, okay? And I can say what list on that board. So now is, again, these are like sales pipeline stages or workflow steps or workflow stages, but these are those vertical lists inside of Trello. And so I'm just going to assign it into the to-do, and I'm going to give it a name. And my name is just going to be call, and I'm going to say at first name. Okay, notice that you just use the at sign to drop down the merge fields, and you can merge in information straight from Infusionsoft. So this is going to be a call task, and we're going to say regarding feedback on new coaching program. So I'm just making something up here, and so don't worry about the details of that. And then I can give a description. Please call first name a couple of times and leave voicemail if necessary. We need a lot of feedback on the coaching program. Okay, so now we can say a label. I could assign any of these labels. So now see how convenient this is? The label itself pulls in the color from Trello so that you can correlate that, and it also pulls in the name. And in case you are colorblind, we also want to give you the name of it as well so that you can recognize it by name or by the color, whatever makes the most sense for you, and we can go and put that in there. So I'm not going to put it in that label. I'm going to just put it in the urgent label instead. And it'll also pull in the members, so I can tag myself as the assigned. Obviously, I would probably be doing this to an outsource, but it's just a quick demo. Now, here's another nice feature. We have the ability to place the card at the top of the list or the bottom of the list. So some people have preferences of how to work their workflow system and prefer everything come to the top. Others want to see it move to the bottom. So however you want to do that, I'm going to say throw it on the top. And I want to add a checklist. So I want to say on the call, I'm going to call that the name of the checklist. And then I want to say make sure and ask for referrals. And then I want to add another checklist item, and I want to say make sure to ask for a testimonial. Okay, and then 3, I want to say ask if they would like to come to the live event. Okay, so I'm just making up some different items that are related with this call that I want to make sure the person sees and checks off as they go through their process, okay? Now, I can even add additional checklists if I want and additional items under that list. So think of this as setting up your project if you want, and you could have an entire checklist of tasks that need to be assigned. So maybe you have a fulfillment system that you need to have your outsourcer do 5 or 6 different tasks related to this process. You could very easily assign those all through checklists right here in the Trello card itself. Now, lastly, what we can do, and this isn't necessary, but you can absolutely do it if you want. So you can save the actual card short link right into Infusionsoft directly. So when we do this, then we have the ability to merge that in. So I'm just going to find something to merge it into. We'll just throw it into this 4-day promo URL. Not a good place, but just as a quick example. And the point here is if you wanted to send out an email notification to your outsourcer, for example, that we've assigned him a Trello task, then you could send him an email and you could merge the link directly to that Trello card. And so when they get the email, they can just click on it. It'll open up Trello and take them straight into the card. Okay, very, very powerful. And that is all you need to do to set up the Trello integration. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and create it. Of course, I got to give it a name. So silly me, I didn't give it a name. So we're going to say Trello, and then we're going to say schedule call, okay, as my name, and then come down here and click create helper, and this will go ahead and create the helper. Now, there's another part that I really want to show you because this gets into the automation aspects of the workflow and how we mimicked and cloned the move into and move out of stage automations with Infusionsoft's opportunity and sales pipeline management. We mimic that with Trello. So we give you the ability here on this little goal to show you when this card moves into or out of these different stages. Okay, so when something moves into the to-do list, we can grab a goal, or when it moves out of the to-do list. So when we do this, we just click on the button here, and that's going to copy the goal name into the clipboard, and then we can paste that into Infusionsoft directly. All right, so let's look at that aspect of it here in Infusionsoft so that you can see how that would work. Now, I'll go into this in a minute, but I want to show you now that it's copied onto the clipboard. What we would do to set up that API goal is we'd change the integration to say MyFusion Helper. It's always going to be MyFusion Helper. And then we paste in that call name. Now, it looks kind of cryptic, and that's necessary so that it's unique across all the different users and platforms and everything. So don't worry about that. And it's an into goal. Okay, so we'll go ahead and save that. And I'm going to move this into, and we said the to-do, right, is what I grabbed. So I'll change this text to say to-do moves into the to-do list. Okay, and that's how you would be able to do this. Now, we'll change this to say maybe notify outsourcer. Okay, so a new item was created. It was created into the to-do, so we want to automatically notify an outsourcer. And as we go back and forth here, you'll see that you can set these goals up so whenever somebody moves into any of these different stages, right, whether it's being blocked or needs approval or anything else, then you can have automatic notifications. Now, stretch your mind a little bit and think of just how incredibly powerful this is when it comes to workflow management. You have the ability of when something is blocked, then using our integration and sending a text message notification to one of the supervisors that there's something that is blocked. Or if it needs approval, you can send a notification to a manager and say, hey, you need to approve this. And because we store the URL directly inside of Infusionsoft, if if you want, when you send them that notification, you can merge the link directly to the Trello card, and they'll get a notification and they can just click on it and go. Now, if you use text, they can click on it and open it up right inside of the Trello app, right on their phone. And that's another beautiful aspect of Trello, is that it works very elegantly on phones and tablets as well. It's got a great interface for their app. So very, very powerful capabilities that you can do here by moving into and out of with the automations. Now, to actually trigger the creation of the Trello card, we use this copy link, and we copy that to the clipboard, and we'll come back in here into our demo. And let's just say this was a fulfillment to a product being purchased, or maybe a tag being added. We want to throw them into this, and we've got a workflow that we want to follow up, and maybe we tag them here, and then we want to invoke the Trello helper. All we have to do is paste in that link and set the draft mode to on, ready, and go back and publish this campaign, and we are ready to go. It's that simple to create the Trello cards and get them into your own custom and personalized workflow in Infusionsoft. So let's go back now and just talk through some of the use cases for this powerful integration. Now, when we talk about some of these examples, I got to tell you, there's so many examples. I could do a whole webinar on this, because workflow management is just such a flexible and creative tool set that literally every single business uses. I can tell you that no matter what business I've consulted with in the past on business efficiency and automation, that workflow has always been a critical component of that. So, don't be limited to, or don't think you're limited to these options that I'm showing you here. Let your imagination kind of go wild on this, because any type of task management, delegation, or workflow processing can be bolted in with this Trello integration. But the first thing I want to point out is it's really a more intuitive replacement for sales pipelines. Now, sales pipelines also have a limitation that they're limited to just one pipeline. Now, I know there's lots of creative hacks around that. I've taught them over the years myself. You can combine multiple pipelines within the same pipeline. But, it causes a lot of little setup and a lot of little issues, and it's just not very intuitive. And, we all know that Infusionsoft is not the easiest or most intuitive environment to work with. And if you're doing a lot of your task management and delegation and project management with outside resources, many times you simply do not want to give them access to Infusionsoft. You just want to have them run your project from an outside resource. And that's exactly what this gives you. Now, there is one negative, and I'm not going to gloss over it because I want to be very candid about it. There is one negative thing of using Trello instead of the pipeline built into Infusionsoft, and that is the reporting aspect. So if you're truly using it as a sales pipeline and you really want the reporting mechanisms that come with Infusionsoft, then that is one reason you may want to stay with the Infusionsoft solution. But I can tell you, for 9 out of 10 people, they're probably going to be embrace the Trello integration far more enthusiastically. Now, another thing that you can use this for is service fulfillment and outsourcer worker task and project management, right? So when you're sending stuff to your team, and if you have resources outside the country or just, virtual resources within the country, then this is a terrific way of creating that integration and assigning and delegating tasks directly to people that are outside of Infusionsoft. Now, another thing you can do is just anything, right? As I said, it's so powerful. Any workflow or task management that you need can be integrated in this fashion. So I hope that helps you and gives you some good stuff to go on. If you need further help, reach out to the help desk at help@myfusionsolutions.com.